you got it made, no, no. You're wrong.
Sweet fancy Moses.
Welcome back. We are reviewing Friday the 13th, the final chapter, part 4 in the series. This was supposed to be the final film in this series. It was released by Paramount Pictures. Original release date, Friday, April 13th, 1984. It was directed by Joseph Zito. Zito also directed Missing in Action and Invasion USA, helping launch, that guy Chuck Norris's career. Zito specialized in action movies and was known as the Doctor in some circles because he fixed ailing productions. It was written by Martin Kittrosser and Carol Watson. Characters, of course, based on Victor Miller, Sean Cunningham. Screenplay was by Barney Cohen. Story by Bruce Hidemi Sakow. Makeup and effects by Tom Savini, who returned to help kill off Jason, who he helped create. It was produced again by Frank Mancuso Jr. Score by the legendary Harry Manfredini. Shot on a budget of $2.2 million. It saw box office returns of $33 million. Adjusted for inflation in 2020 is $82,553,359. Of course, we start with a flashback sequence recapping what happened in the first 3 films. Basically, a Jason Voorhees highlight reel of kills, complete with a great title card sequence. The movie kicks off with the cleanup of the massacre at the farm, and Jason's body is in transit via an ambulance. Now, we've seen this trope in many other horror movies, but let's see what happens. This is where we meet our coroner Axel, who makes a rather odd remark about one of the female cadavers being cute to the male and female ambulance driver, and this pretty much establishes that he's that character. That off-the-wall, weird kind of hornball. So Axel and the nurse are sitting in the morgue right next to Jason's body, watching the news. Well, she wants to watch the news, and they start kissing in front of Jason while he's on the table next to them, and his hand falls on her leg. She storms out and goes to do inventory, and Axel, well, he gets his throat slit with a bone saw, and then our nurse gets slit down the torso and throat lifted in a really cool scene. We meet Tracy, Trisha, and Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman, who live in the house next to where our fresh batch of victims will be staying for the weekend or until they're killed off systematically one by one. This next scene features a great cameo as we see Rosie O'Donnell. A hitchhiker that looks like Rosie O'Donnell, and our crew drives by and refuses to pick her up, so she gets a knife through her neck while she tries to eat a banana. Jason was actually played by Tom Savini in this scene. Tommy and Trisha have car trouble on the way home, and they're assisted by a backpacker named Rob Dyer, and he introduces himself. But in retrospect, you think it's odd that he said his last name, but it's an Easter egg back to the second movie. Because as it turns out later in a bit of exposition, he says he's the older brother of Sandra Dyer, who was killed by Jason. Her and Jeff fell victim to double impalement, if you remember back to part 2. Rob alludes to the fact that he's basically hunting Jason, but says bears. So Rob accompanies them home and goes right to Tommy's room with them, a grown adult man that they just met. Remember the 80s? Our teenage fodder are dancing. I don't know, it's not a Soul Train line, but anyway, because Crispin Glover displays some of the whitest dance moves I have ever seen. Paul ditches his hookup with Samantha, picks up one of the bike girls. We met a pair of twins. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about the twins, have I?
Double good, double mint gum. Double your pleasure with double mint gum.
So our crew met the twins on the way to the lake when they were going swimming, and they came back to their house for a party, and it caused all kinds of problems because of course all the guys were trying to pick them up. And yes, Carrie and Camilla Moore are truly twin sisters, and they were actually Doublemint twins. So after Paul is seen dancing with one of the twins. Samantha, his hookup, gets mad, jealous, goes outside, decides to go for a naked swim in the middle of the night, jumps in the lake, swims out to the anchored raft, and Jason impales her from under the water through the bottom of the raft. Paul goes out to meet up with her, but we'll get back to him in a minute. Crispin Glover heads upstairs with one of the bicycle girls. Their names are inconsequential to anything relevant to the plot, well, because they just are. And his friend Ted, who's a complete stereotypical douche character, strikes out again with the other girl as he's been trying to give Crispin Glover these hints on how to pick up women the whole movie when he's actually the one that's pretty clueless. Paul goes swimming out to the raft only to find Samantha dead, and he swims over to the dock only to be impaled through the nuts with a spear gun by Jason. That'll teach ya. Rob Dyer, our wilderness scout, is camping nearby, and he hears a scream from the lake, grabs his machete instead of his rifle inexplicably, and goes to investigate. He returns to his camp only to find it ransacked and his rifle smashed. So Crispin Glover, Jimmy Mortimer, and Tina, that's the twin that he went upstairs with, are shagging. Her sister Terry tells him it's time to go, and they send her away in the rain. We see a shadow of Jason stabbing her, again silhouetted against the house, and smashing her into it. The initial kill effect and the visual in the scene were pretty superb, I have to be honest with you. Mrs. Jarvis comes home to no power in an empty house, which considering the age of her kid should be disconcerting. So she goes outside to investigate, which usually ends well in these movies. She's dead. But we don't find that out until we look into the extras on the DVD and see the deleted scene. Trish and Tommy get home, and now they're looking for Mom to no avail. So Trish decides to go out on the jogging path looking for Mom in the dark, in the rain, and finds Rob's camp and crawls into his tent. Inexplicably, he shows up and cuts a hole in it, almost killing her. Jimmy is done with his tryst upstairs with Tina, goes into the kitchen to get some wine, and while looking for the corkscrew, Jason helps him find it by jamming it through his hand and then hitting him in the forehead with a meat cleaver. While awaiting her sister's return, Tina realizes that Terry never left. While she's looking out the window, Jason, who's now fucking Spider-Man, is on the ledge, pulls her through the window, and throws her onto the roof of Red Foreman's Vista Cruiser. Man, Jason is going to end up with a foot in his ass. As Rob Dyer and Trisha Jarvis talk in his tent, he tells her that his sister Sandra Dyer, yes, Sandra from Part 2 that was killed in the double impalement with Jeff, was his sister, so he's basically hunting her killer. Rob tells her that Jason disappeared from the morgue, and 2 people from the hospital went missing, Axel and Nurse Morgan, plus the other murders, and it can't be coincidental. Ted is still in the living room watching 8mm movies until the reel ends and Jason stabs him in the back of the head through the screen, which is pretty welcomed with this character, honestly. Sarah goes from the shower with Doug to her room after their last conjugal visit. You'll see why in a minute. And Jason turns out the lights on Doug in the shower and smashes his head into the wall. Sarah comes back to check on him, finds him dead, and tries to run out the door but gets an axe to the chest. Trisha, Rob, and Tommy are in the Jarvis house, and Jason rips out the phone line. Pretty smart for a dead guy. So Rob and Trisha go next door to Murder House to investigate and possibly borrow a cup of sugar. As they investigate, the power goes out, and Rob decides to go to the basement to fix it, leaving Trisha all alone upstairs with the dog, Gordon. And of course, we get the scene where Rob's like, "Oh my God, he's killing me, he's killing me." And then the damn dog, Gordon, jumps out the second-story window like Sabu on a fucking bender, which is hilarious. So Trisha finds Doug bolted to the door, goes downstairs, and of course Jason has chopped Rob to death with the quickness, so she runs away, Trisha that is, goes the fuck back downstairs only to have Jason grab her foot. Then she jumps out the window and runs home and nails the door shut. But all the windows are easily breachable, so Jason just throws Rob's limp and chopped up body through one of the windows, grabs Tommy, and then he and Trish fight their way upstairs, basically trap themselves in an unescapable situation, which seems par for the course with the intelligence level of these characters. Trish is at home, and of course Jason follows. She chops one of his hands with the machete, and he's trying to kill her. Tommy comes downstairs looking like young Jason with half his head shaved, hair everywhere, whatever, and distracts him. Trisha slices off his mask and shows his mongoloid face. Tommy grabs the machete and slams it into his head, and he slides down the blade, and he's down, but not out. And then Tommy goes full American Psycho prequel and turns him into Hamburger with the machete. They show Trisha in the hospital with some patronizing doctor dialogue and the same from a sheriff. But Tommy and Trisha are reunited, and you end the movie on this creepy glare from Corey Feldman's Tommy Jarvis character to close out Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Are you kids ready to recap what we just saw? Let's do it, shall we? This is the Friday the 13th final chapter. Kill count. Let's start off with the top. Axel, number 1. Throat slit, head turned around. Number 2, Nurse Morgan, torso slit open. Number 3, Rosie O'Donnell the hitchhiker, stabbed through the throat. Number 4, Samantha, the movie's resident smoke show, stabbed through the stomach from underneath the raft. Number 5, Paul, speared right in the nuts. Number 6, Terry, speared in the back. Number 7, Mrs. Jarvis, killed off camera, assumedly, but you can watch the extra features to see the dream sequence that they initially shot for her demise. Number 8, Jimmy, cleaver to the face, and that's for his horrible dancing. Number 9, Tina. She was thrown through the window onto the roof of Red Foreman's car. Number 10, Ted, stabbed in the back of the head through a movie screen. Number 11, Doug, head crushed against the wall. Number 12, Sarah, axe to the chest. Number 13, Rob, he's killing me, Rob. Number 14, Jason Voorhees, machete to the head. Now, there's 2 deaths that are not counted. Number 1 is the banana that was crushed by the hitchhiker while Jason was stabbing her. And number 2, Gordon Jarvis, who just did the Van Halen and go ahead and jump through the window. That is the recap death list from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Now let's get into my final thoughts on this one, shall we? I thought this was a fun entry into the series. I liked the characters. I liked the Jarvis family. The ancillary characters were, as predicted, one-dimensional, except for Rob Dyer. I did like the fact that there was some connectivity between him and Sandra from part 2. He was trying to avenge or find, his sister's killer. So I like that aspect of it. And I thought young Corey Feldman gave a very serviceable performance in this role as Tommy Jarvis. All right, now, while I did like this movie, I have to go with a 5.5 out of 10. It was average at best. It gave a little bit of oomph to the franchise, but not too much. A little bit of a decline at the box office from the previous entry, but it's leading into 2 of the better films in the series, so it has that. And like I said, Corey Feldman was good. We had the Doublemint twins in it, plus Crispin Glover's horrible dancing. 5.5 out of 10 for me. Let's take this thing home, shall we? So you see it right there. Do me that big solid. Let today be the day that you push that subscribe button. Become a subscriber, the place to be. Reviews, I promise you will not be disappointed. Also, do me that other favorite. Bitch slap that like button for me. Do it like it owes you money. Now, while we're wrapping it up, I want to go through a few quick little cool facts about the movie here. Corey Feldman was a huge fan of Halloween. He actually thought he was being hired for that series when he auditioned for this movie. Frank Mancuso Jr. was sick of the series and wanted this to be the final one, thus the title, The Final Chapter. Peter Barton, Doug, starred in The Powers of Matthew Starr with Amy Steele from Friday the 13th Part 2. He didn't want to be in Friday the 13th, but only did it because Amy talked to him about it and he thought it was really the final chapter. Camilla Moore, Tina, went out for the role of Samantha. Once they knew she had a twin, they were excited. She and her sister were actually Doublemint gum twins. Kimberly Beck, Trish, has never seen a Friday the 13th film and says she still won't. They are C- movies. As of 2005, she still hasn't seen one. She had just divorced and felt like she needed to do the movie even though she didn't like or respect it. In 2009, she actually took part in the deluxe edition of the DVD of Part 4. The first day of shooting was Halloween 1983. And last but not least, Kimberly Beck, who played Trish, and Eric, who played Rob Dyer, took Corey Feldman trick-or-treating that year. I'm Itepo of the Place to Be Reviews. I have been here with all of yous. And remember, if I don't see you, have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. I'll catch you on the next one.